Hey everybody, Eric Schweitzer here, joined today by the Gamer's Editor-in-Chief, Stacey Henley.
Hello.
Of course, we're talking about a possible game of the year, Astrobot.
Yeah, a definite contender, I think. Both for me, for the site, and I think probably for
For the
Mr.
world.
Jeff. Yeah.
For Mr. Jeff.
Yeah.
Um, Astrobot is so delightful and also sort of a fascinating rise in status from a VR game that nobody played
Yeah.
to a PS5 pack-in, but like keep in mind how few PS5 sold for years and years.
Yeah.
You know,
A tech demo for a console that people just didn't have
couldn't
because they
get.
couldn't buy it, couldn't
Yeah,
afford it, didn't think there's any games worth buying it for.
yeah, and now we all act like we've always loved Astrobot. We act like he's PlayStation's Mario, and it's because the game's so gosh dang good.
The game is very, very good. I was surprised at how good it was. You know, when I got the code from it, I was going to review it. I expected it to be kind of, this will be a fun platformer, because I love platformers. I've played like all the mainline Mario games, Crash, Spyro, not Sonic, but like all the other mascots. I've played them, and I love them. But a lot of them are just kind of, this is fun, I enjoy this. You know, there's a lot of
Yeah.
games in the middle of Ratchet's collection that are like, yeah, I'm having a good time. It's not great, I'm having a good time. And I thought
True.
Astro would be that, but also like, and over there's like, that's Joel, but he's a robot.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's so much better than I expected. It is just a brilliant platformer, and really interesting that it's so like into PlayStation's history when PlayStation's present is not this sort of game at all. PlayStation has built itself around completely different forms of games these days, and this has arrived to remind them, hey, remember when Japan used to do things?
Yeah. It's it's hard not to be a little bit cynical about it. Just because you're totally right. It's like this game is a celebration of something that PlayStation is not anymore at all.
Yeah, and I think the obvious thing, because of the timing, is to compare it to Concord. We discussed Concord on the show before, and it's like, I think we kind of debate, is it even going to come out? Because it was so clearly, unpopular in the beta stage, and wasn't really picking up. And I think it's easy to say, look at this mess of a live service game. PlayStation should be doing this, and that's true. But I'm more looking at games like The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, all games that I like. A couple of games that I love, I say I really, really like, and The Last of Us out of those. And I'm thinking, actually, not that PlayStation should do less of those, but PlayStation, it shouldn't just do those. You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing. It's easy to point at Concord and go, you shouldn't have made that. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
It lasted for
probably.
11 days and it cost them over $1 billion. Yeah, they shouldn't
Yeah.
have bothered making that one. It's the games that are massive successes that you think, these take 8 years to make. And PlayStation should not only be about games that take 8 years to make and give you a nihilistic sense of dread.
Yeah.
They should be fun. Like, it's odd to argue that as a critic who is usually very like, where's the substance? To be saying games should be fun, but Astrobot has washed my cynicism away. All games should be Astrobot from now on.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's get into it. We've played a bajillion 3D character platformers.
Yeah.
How do you make that fresh? How do you make that special again?
I think the thing with it is how inventive it is. It reminded me, and I think I put this in my review, of It Takes Two. I played It Takes Two, as everyone did, I think, with a partner or a friend. I played with my wife, and it gave you a new idea, and then just before it got boring, it threw it away, and you never saw it again. Did a Tony Hawk's level, did like a Diablo level. There was so many different, it was like a shooter bit, there was so many different sections of that, and It Takes Two just went, nope, next thing. But, and I love It Takes Two, it won Game of the Year, it's very good.
It's long.
It's long, and it's also got some duds in there. There are
Yeah.
some bits where you go, yeah, I'm not feeling this. And they're
Yeah.
different for everyone. I don't think there's that many standouts that everyone hates, but I think most people played It Takes Two and went, didn't really care for that bit.
The
There's not a
underwater
bit-
stuff didn't do it for me.
That's a good example. And there's just not one like that in Astrobot. Every fresh
Okay.
idea it has is brilliant. There are 4 different powers. Well, there's a lot more than that, but there's 4 different powers that it only uses once. Across the whole game, there's just one level with them, and one of them is the very last level. And I don't mean the end of the game. I mean, once you've got beaten every single level, you unlock a secret level, and it throws a new power at you in that one. And it's the kind of power that other games would just use. They would use
Mm.
that as their main gimmick. So I think it's how inventive it is with the big picture stuff, not just the small stuff. Like, oh, you can blow into the controller. That's fun, but it's clearly a gimmick. It's
Yeah.
the actual level design stuff is just, it feels very intelligent, and it probably won't get as much credit for that because everyone will play it and say it's fun, and that's great. That's what people should think that. But there's a lot going on underneath this that I think other platformers that are good to run around in just don't get close to.
Yeah. Is I wonder if it almost feels like some of these really good ideas are wasted on being used. So, like, it's certainly admirable that they were brave enough and that they had enough good ideas to be like,
Yeah,
oh, we're just going to use this for 3 minutes and then never again. But like maybe they should have used some of these a bit more.
there is. I mean, it took me 11 hours to beat it, but then it took me like 25 or something to get the platinum. And then obviously I was
Mm,
doing it for coverage. So I was playing it for guys and replaying stuff and getting footage stuff. So my
yeah,
time's a little bit out of sync. But I think most people will take about 10 hours to beat it, 20 to 25 to do everything in it, and you'll still want to run it afterwards. So it is kind of on the short side, but I think for a platform MMOs, that's kind of what you want.
hmm,
There's one of the powers that you only get once is it's a shrinking thing. You have a little mouse ears and you shrink down. There's basically two levels in one. There's one that on like a micro level you can climb on plants and building blocks. Then there's a big level, and you work those in conjunction to get to the finish line. You go small to like take screws out of things, and then when you go big, you now open doors, stuff like that.
mm,
That's only used once. It's a really clever idea, and I would have liked to have seen 3 or 4 levels where it did that. But by the fourth level, would I have enjoyed it? Is kind of the hypothetical question, right? Like the other powers, there's a swimming power. There's you get like a little penguin backpack, and it's a novelty to be underwater for the whole level, for it to work it well, and then to be done with it. I don't know if I would love 4 different versions of it.
yeah,
Um, so there's definitely an argument for kind of for both. It's something that I think every time you have a game that has a perfect score, you kind of go, but it'd be even better if it had this, and you think at a certain point it would actually be worse.
right.
But I would have liked more levels because the game's great. I'm gluttonous for more Astro Bots.
So back to the idea of this sort of like gimmicky stuff.
Yeah,
Obviously, the previous Astro, but what was it called? What was the
Playroom, Astro's
pl-
Playroom.
Playroom? Was very gimmicky because it was there to show you how
Yeah,
cool the DualSense is. And then I think I forgot the one before that. Even before the VR one wasn't the PS4 camera had its own little Astrobot camera game too?
I only know of Rescue Mission, but I
Okay.
couldn't say for definite.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, so sort of intrinsically linked to gimmicks that show off the hardware, right? But is that how much is that part of this one?
I think they've got a lot more freedom this time. There are ones that they've kept that work, and there are ones that they have thrown out. In the
Mm.
last game in Playroom, you had to like swipe along the touchpad to roll a ball. That was one of the things you had to like control it with, like you're controlling a marble or a little mini skateboard. You had to actually physically swipe the controller. In this one, in just Astrobot, those levels, those like rolling on a ball things, they still exist. You get the cat from Demo Doku Isio if you do those levels, which people in the West probably don't know very well, but it's very popular in Japan. Um, but that's not done with the rolling thing. That's just done with the thumbsticks, to how you play every other video game. So the devs have clearly gone, we really like this ball rolling thing. We think we can do some cool like level design bits with it. Cause we can like roll upside down and go on spikes and create
Mm.
different versions of barriers. But actually, the swiping with your hands is kind of silly, and we hate it. So they just
Mm.
chuck that out. But you blow into the microphone like you used to last, and that still happens, but it's used a little bit more effectively here. In the God of War level, there's like a trumpet, or I guess a horn or horn, and if you blow into the controller near it, you summon the World Serpent. Like it
Cool.
makes the sound.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's
okay.
used really effectively, and then Thor's on top of the World Serpent, and you rescue him. And obviously, all of the game is kind of built around rescuing different characters. So I think they've doing it as a tech demo clearly let the team know here's all the things we can do. And I think at some point during development, they sat down and went, we can make some cool ideas with this one. We can't with that one. Let's not do it. And they couldn't do that the first time. The first time the brief was show off everything the controller can do. So they had to do everything. This time it feels like a game made with a bit more freedom.
Okay. Now, so you mentioned the God of War level. Are all the levels based on different PlayStation games?
No. There's 5 main zones, and then there's a secret zone that you get. You unlock secret levels, but there's 5 main zones. At the end of each level, you beat a boss, and then you rescue with what they call hero characters. So Ape Escape, or Spike from Ape Escape, the first one, Kratos and Atreus, Nathan Drake. Loco Roco gets one, which I thought was weird until I realized that was Team Asobi or Japan Studio as well. It's obviously just them doing their own game. And Aloy. So there's 5 left. Once you rescue them, you then play a level based on their game where you rescue all the companions. That's when you get like Thor and Freya, or Sully and Sam and Chloe and things like that.
Okay.
And all the local Rogo blobs that we all know their names of.
Yep.
So there's
Chi
5...
Chi and Gumbo, Scrumps.
I know one of them's called Budsy because I had to look them up and write them down. This is where you'll find the Priffy blob. So there's 5 levels that are based on games, but I would say the rest of them have some kind of flavor to them. So the level that you find William Adams from Neo and Jin Sakai from Ghost of Tsushima, that's a samurai level because they're samurais. So it's not really based on their games. It's just he has a dojo level, like you chop bamboo, you jump on like the war drum things. Like it's just the way any kind of platformer is made. The characters from Gravity Rush, they're found on a level with a tornado when the gravity works in different ways. So they've been put in different things. If Sly Cooper's in jail, it's all kind of based around the characters to an extent. Some of them are clearly just you can go here because we want you in the game, but really, where do you put Tony Hawk? Like, so there's a lot of, I guess, tributes rather than references.
Yeah. Okay. One might say a love letter to... No, one wouldn't say that. Please don't say that.
I think the big thing for me with that whole list of love letter to PlayStation is it just feels like it's a bit bigger than that. It doesn't feel like it... Because Playroom was fun, but Playroom was that. Playroom was like, we need to find the parts for the iToy. Ooh, we found an iToy. And I played it, it was fun. I'm not going to pretend I'm too cool to point at the PlayStation Move and go, I remember that. But there wasn't a lot to it. If they'd made Astro's Playroom but bigger, I wouldn't have given it a 5 out of 5, and I don't think it would be sitting on 94, 95, whatever it's sitting on now. I think it would be the kind of game that I expected, which would be good, cheap, clean fun. It has deliberately avoided doing that. Even though there's so many characters in this, I think it's deliberately avoided being too into PlayStation. It has the perfect amount, I think, of it. Okay.
I just checked that PS4 camera game to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. And it is a Team Asobi game, and it's called The Playroom.
Right.
And it features... It is Astrobot, but it's like proto-Astrobots.
Right. Before Astrobot was... Before he made it big, before he went Hollywood.
Yeah, before he sold out. Yes, it's weird Astrobot-like little guys. And I remember where you would tilt the DualShock 4 back and forth, and you could hear them rolling around inside the controller.
The tilt system is still in this one, but you move like podiums that have water on them, so you can hear the water splashing off them,
sloshing around. And my favorite thing from Playroom was the springs.
Yes.
You remember that? You would sort of become a spring, but then you'd have the tension in the trigger and have to fling yourself out of the spring in different directions. Is there a lot of stuff like that?
That specific thing is not there, no.
Okay.
But there is a lot of things like that. They haven't, again, they've gone on a list and gone, nope. They haven't really got the, I can't remember what they call the thing on the dual sense.
The haptic triggers.
Haptic triggers. They're very proud of that, and only Returnal's ever really bothered to use it.
And Playroom.
And Playroom, yeah. Not Astrobot though. There's no haptic trigger stuff going on.
None.
No, none at all.
Wow. Oh, that surprises me. Okay.
The triggers are only really used. You ride a dual speeder, they call it. It's a big PlayStation controller. It's also a rocket ship. And the L2 and R2 are the thrusters. And as you like fly into the levels, there's collectibles before you land sometimes. So you have to move it in real life because it's motion, so gyro, and then hold the thrusters to speed up when you need to. But other than that, the triggers aren't really used at all. I don't think. Or some of the powers actually are on triggers, but it's just a click button. It's not a hold to do it.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it's just like any other hardware gimmick. Like we see it at the very beginning and then never again.
It does seem like a strange one, actually. I hadn't really thought of that as I was going through, but yeah, that's a concept that obviously decided not to. It wouldn't really shoot any of the powers, I guess. They would be making up a one to use it. And there's lots of like trampolines and things. So it's all like the way you bounce in this, because it's a bit more. I know Playroom was linear, but this is a lot more directed, I would say, because there's collectibles and stuff. So there's specific areas where you can wander, and then there's kind of, sometimes you jump on a trampoline, it's like, nope, that area's done, so you can't like backtrack all the way through the level. I think it's maybe a little bit more controlled, like by the game, as opposed to like, you having to choose where you zip to. So that might be a reason for it.
Okay. Do you have a favorite level?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. And the one that has stand out to me the most, and some of the levels I didn't like rewatch for guiding because I split them with someone on the site. So there's some that I've kind of half forgotten about, and some that I know very well because I've had to watch them like 7 times to remember where all the collectibles were. There's a level called Bathhouse Battle, which is one that again has a unique power in it. Its base is, you might guess, in a bathhouse, and Astro stands in water and he becomes a big like loofah sponge, and he grows like huge size, and then he just goes to fire and he like tenses his body and he sprays water everywhere and he puts the fire out. And there's some really cool stuff that you can do in that, because that has a secret level in it. Like 10 of the levels have secret levels hidden in them. That has, I think, my favorite one for people to find because it's so well hidden. It has a lot of interest in hiding areas, and I just think the way it moves through the level is a really creative use of the power that you don't ever get again, which is why I like it. Like it uses every possible thing that you could do with what if Astro could grow huge and spray water everywhere, because it doesn't need to. Oh, we won't do that yet because we want to put that in the second level.
Right.
You know, it can just be everything in one. And I think the levels where you only get one power, like Final Encore, Bubbling Under are the 2 other ones I couldn't remember, and Downside Surprise, the small one. They all feel very thorough in how they use their powers. All of those, I would say, have a little bit more space to try the powers out and wander, whereas the powers that you get a few times, like the backpack, like the jetpacks and stuff, they tend to be a bit more linear because you're using them for a very specific purpose. The bulldog that I think was in the VR game is back, and that has some interesting uses, but that is in 3 or 4 different levels, so then it's never fully unique when you get that one.
And so what's the deal with the speedrunning stuff? Is it kind of the same as it was in Playroom?
I mean, there's no time trials at all.
Oh.
Yeah, that's there'll be a feature going up on the site, I think today, Friday, about that. There's no time trials in the game.
Tragic.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
And you gave it a 5?
That's the one, and then immediately complained about it in a feature. That's the game journalist way.
They'll add that, surely, right? Am I coping?
I am very surprised it's not there, especially because another thing that I think is worth talking about, the game does difficulty really, really well. As I said, I've played a lot of the platform games, and sometimes when you play Mario games, especially 2D Mario games, it's going along and it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting better at it, and then it just suddenly hits you with a spike. And I get it. You beat the game, and you beat these really hard levels, and you're supposed to feel a sense of like personal accomplishment. And a lot of time I just don't. Like I've beaten the tough. I've finished Wonder. I've beat the tough levels in previous 2D Mario's. I've done it. I just don't feel very rewarded by it. I feel like I know I should expect the next Mario's been going for 30 years, but it always kind of feels a little bit cheap to just crank up the difficulty and go now it's really hard. And I know the 3D Mario's don't do as much. I know this is a 3D game, but what it does really well is I don't think any of the main levels anyone's going to struggle to finish. You'll die a few times, but the checkpoints are so generous, and it's really more about using your powers to explore and find things. You definitely won't find everything on the first run. You're going to need to like play them several times and probably have a guide open and find different things. But just getting to the end and finishing it, no one is going to struggle. And I think because it does the difficulty, because it feels so approachable like that, and then there's occasionally a couple of the challenge levels that test your skills. So in every zone, there's 4 different secret levels that no save points. There's just pure platforming gauntlet, and they get harder as they go on. And the last one is a combination of all of them. It's very difficult, takes a long time. I think because it does the difficulty so well, that's where the time trials would really work, because it would give you a reason to play the easier levels over and go, not just, oh yeah, I remember this, it's fun to like frolic and become an octopus that like blasts up in the air, but to actually find a skill challenge in there, I think it would be perfect, because it's not going to be a game where you go back in and you go, oh, I used to be able to do this level, I wonder if I still can. Like, you will still be able to do every level. You play this in a year, and you will still be able to do every level.
Right.
Like, just instantly, basically. Other than the challenge level, even then, I think the one that took me the longest took me about 40 minutes, which is, I've spent longer than that on difficult platforming. When I did, is it Slippery Climb or Stormy Ascent, the one in Crash Bandicoot, like that took hours of my life to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing close to that.
Okay. I mean, obviously it doesn't need time trials to be a speedrunning game, because every game is a speedrunning game.
That's true.
It's just that was such a cool feature. Like that. Yeah, that was like one of my favorite things about Playroom. So, very strange.
Your
that
2
it's
favorite
missing.
things in Playroom, aren't you?
Yeah.
It is great though.
How could they do this to me specifically?
I'm trying to think if there's any little cameo bots that you would like, especially, actually.
Ooh, is there Sora?
There's not. There is no Square Enix at all.
Oh, wow, no Cloud? Or...
No Cloud.
Oh.
That's the biggest, like, why is that not there? No Spidey, which I guess is a licensing thing.
Yeah.
And not even no Final Fantasy. There's nothing from Square Enix at all.
They got Resistance cameos?
No.
Oh, wow. But that's like a big one. They must have Infamous.
Yes, they do have 3 Infamous, in fact.
Cole McGrath.
They have Cole, they have Delson, they have Abigail.
Okay. And do you get little trophies, or like you get little rewards when you find these characters?
So when you find those characters, there's a hub. The idea of the game is you crash land. So the kind of plot, if you can call it that. Astro's flying through the universe in his PlayStation 5, the mothership. And an alien, a very like classic cartoony alien, like a big green slime thing, comes into space and grabs the PlayStation and throws it at a planet, and he crashes. And then you go around different star systems around the planet to rescue all the robots that have been explored out of the ship. They've landed on different kind of meteorite rocks nearby, and that's where you find them. So when you rescue them, they go back to the crash site, which is like a hub that you can go to, and you can, if you punch them in the face, they will they'll like do a trick.
Ooh.
So Crash does his famous Crash, the idle animation from Crash 3.
His little shimmy.
Yeah, so Crash does that, and Astro will do it with him. If you trying to think of something like this.
What does Daxter do?
So Jack and Dexter are a pair. If you if you punch Jack, he does like the knocked out animation from, I think, first Jack from Precursor Legacy, and then that's when Dex like grabs his collar and like riles him and slaps his face. Now, so they come as a pair. Actually, that's the thing I should mention. They don't come as a pair. You get Jack, and then on the crash site, there are different trinkets you can unlock for different characters. Most characters have them. They cost 100 gold each, but it's all like random. But across the course of the game, you'll get enough money to buy them all. Once you unlock them, then they have a thing to have with them in the crash site. So with Jack, it's Dexter. With Crash, it's the mask. With Dante, Dante gets his guns. Dante just kind of stands around, then you give him his guns, starts like doing like shooting.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So
What about Fat Princess?
she was in the concept art and was scrapped,
Oh.
so she's not there.
Okay. Okay. I'm so excited to play this. I think I just want a little bit of joy, you know?
It's a very joyous game. I can't remember who it was. One of the reviews that I read said it like reminded you like of why you play video games, and I'm always kind of wary of when people say that about games, because I think we say that about kind of everything. We say every cinematic experience, but I really not just because it has Crash Bandicoot and oh look, Lara Croft's here, but it has a real throwback nostalgia kind of. This is why I started playing games in the first place, and part of that for me very personally is because the genre that I played most as a kid was platformers. So I don't need the kind of JRPG cameos of like, oh yeah, I remember Ark the Lad. I'm just enjoying the nostalgia because it's a platformer again. I haven't played one of those that's been this good for a long time. But I do think it has a sense of. We had a lot of games last year that pushed the boundaries of gaming in various ways. We discussed this in our kind of end of year wrap-up with the kind of the stuff that Alan Wake did, the kind of technological stuff that Zelda was doing on a much less powerful machine, all of the narrative things that Baldur's Gate did. I think there's something similar in Astrobot where it feels like this is doing things that games either can't, won't, or haven't thought about doing, and it just feels a bit special.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about the timing too. I mean, we talked about that its timing in comparison to Concord, and but also like when I look at this year, we've had a lot of great stuff, but when's the last time we had a game like this at all?
I think it is like I put in my review that I thought was actually a little bit better than this, and I read a few other reviews that were like, it's the best platformer we've had since Super Mario Odyssey. So I didn't feel very original when I saw that like 7 other people immediately made that comparison.
Yeah.
But that's probably the game you'd go by. That's probably the game that kind of mixes, this is approachable, like everyone's going to play this. Like my wife's boss today was talking, like asked, she knows what I work in, like, have you heard of this game Astrobot about a little dude that lives in the PlayStation? Like, people who don't play games are going to want to play this, which I think is obviously the appeal Mario has. Massive critical success. I think it'll be a big commercial success. And I think it'll do really well at the awards. I think people never like when I say this has been like a down year or a dry year or a bad year, because they say, what about this indie game that I really loved? But yeah, I don't care. Last year we had 1 million games.
Yep.
This year we don't. And I understand there's layoffs. I understand the reasons behind it. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I'm just pointing out this year, where are the big hitters? Like the three nominees, and I can only think of 3 that I think will be there for Game of the Year, End of the Year: Astro, Final Fantasy, and Infinite Wealth. They're the only games right now that I think are AAA that I think will be there. Dragon's Dogma's in the mix, but I don't think Dragon's Dogma got on the podium last year. If you put Dragon's Dogma in last year's field, it wouldn't have been mentioned. It wouldn't have been.
I think you're right.
And I think I would, as much as I love it, I would also say the same for Infinite Wealth. It would not have been nominated alongside Alan Wake and Zelda and Spider-Man and Baldur's Gate. It wouldn't have been in them. It doesn't have that kind of mainstream appeal as great as I think it is. Final Fantasy, I know 16 didn't. I think 7 would have had a shot last year. And then obviously Astro. Astro would have been a challenger last year. I think it would have been in the mix with all of them. As tough as that would have been, I don't think it would have won. But I think it's on that level. And I think this year, there's not a crowded field. Yes, there's stuff coming out. We've got Dragon Age still to come. We've got Metaphor still to come. We've got Indiana Jones still to come. We've got Microsoft Flight Sim still to come, which always reviews really well. We have some good games coming up. I know we do.
Zelda.
We have a Zelda game. Is it a real Zelda game?
How dare you?
I mean,
we don't have time to get into that. Is it a real Zelda game? It might be the realest Zelda game there's ever been.
It's the only actual Zelda game. That's very fair. Yes, it's actually a Zelda game. There's some games that are going to be challenging for Game of the Year, but I just feel like this year is. It felt like one of those years where it was kind of anybody's game. It didn't feel like there was a game that had stood up and been like your Baldur's Gate last year and gone, no, I am video games. There was a lot of games that were very popular with fandoms that were very good, that had a chance, that deserved something. Dragon's Dogma, Final Fantasy, Infinite Wealth, all in that category. A game that unites everybody and just has people stand as one and say, yeah, this is great. Not been a game like that this year. Now there has.
Yeah.
It would surprise me if it didn't win Game of the Year. And I don't even know if I'll put it number 1 on my list, because I also really love Infinite Wealth. I think it'll be 2 on my list. I'm not saying that because I think it's this amazing game that could never possibly be doubted. I just think the way the votes work, the way the massive cultural popularity it's about to have as people play it and find... Do you remember Rogue Galaxy? It's going to have a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean... It Takes Two won Game of the Year, right? So, and that's definitely the same. Everyone can come together and agree that this is a really special game.
Yeah, and it won in the COVID year, which was a little bit of a down year. It didn't have as many big releases. Games came out, but it was a very chunky year beforehand. We had Hades, Ghost of Tsushima, and The Last of Us the year before it. And then... Obviously, we had 2022 and specifically 2023, which had the huge releases of things that were delayed because of COVID. So it won in a little bit of a drier year, but it was a really special game. And I think Astro is that, and I think it's also a bit better than It Takes Two, which will obviously help it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you're looking for a Baldur's Gate 3, a sort of game that defines the year, it's the Elden Ring expansion.
That's true. That's true.
And as far as I know, Shadow of the Erdtree isn't going to be Game of the Year at the Game Awards or at most outlets because it's not a game. It's DLC.
I don't think many outlets will give it, especially not with a challenger like Astro, but around, like I say, a lot of very fandom-heavy games like Final Fantasy and Infinite Wealth and Dragon's Dogma. I actually don't know about the Game Awards. I know we voted in the Game Awards before, but I can't fully remember the process. If I remember correctly, and this is like public information that Keely's spoken about himself before, so I'm not revealing any kind of NDA secrets. I think it's basically you can pick what you want, and whoever get the most vote wins. It's the same reason Among Us was nominated 2 years after it came out, because that was when it blew up. Okay. And the kind of consensus was, well, we feel it's worth recognition. This is the year everybody played it, so we're going to consider it a release for this year. It was the same thing when Phantom Liberty was nominated for something. It wasn't up for Game of the Year, but Phantom Liberty was up for stuff last year. I think Ongoing Game was up for, and there was kind of from Keely, the kind of statement was, people voted for it. I, sent out a blank list. That game was on the list that came back enough times to be nominated. Mm-hmm. So Shadow of the Erdtree, I don't know. I think a lot of sites will decide themselves it's ineligible, but I don't actually know officially if it will be, and that will be interesting.
Yeah. Anything else to touch on?
I guess I would just tell people to, do go at your own pace and see the different things in this game. It's not difficult. There's no prizes for kind of rushing ahead. I think you will enjoy it more the more you kind of take your time with it. Go back to the crash site a lot, because part of the charm of the game is interacting with the characters, and I think if you save up all your money and then do it at the end and just kind of buy all the unlockables at once, you won't really get to see them. And there's other neat things there as well, like you can change the colour of your rocket ship, you can have different outfits based on different, so you can have, there's a Ratchet outfit, there's a Jack outfit, there's a Sly Cooper outfit, there's a Clicker outfit. So yeah, go back to Crash Site and do that. Actually, that is the last thing I want to mention about the Clickers. Really strange. There are 3 characters from The Last of Us in this thing. They are Ellie, Joel, and a zombie. There's no space for Abby, which I find really strange, because she's a playable character. There's 3 playable characters, there's 3 slots, and she doesn't have one. I find that odd.
All right, your first 5 out of 5 at the Gamer.
Correct.
Now, you would have given Baldur's Gate a 5 out of 5 had you reviewed it, I'm sure.
That's true, yes. But it's different, though. It is different to play it in the vacuum of not knowing whether people are going to give it. It's easy now to say, I'd give Baldur's Gate a 5, I'd give Alan Wake, I'd give Zelda. I probably wouldn't have given all the great games, even games that I love, a 5 in the moment. I'm not sure how confident I'd have been in the vacuum to go, no, I actually think this is perfect. I think I can defend this game's perfection.
Yeah, and this is one of them.
This is one of them.
Well, the one.
It's
Apparently.
it's the game.
Very cool. I can't wait to play it. Also, $60, not 70. I think.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Which is an odd price point because it's cheap, but not that cheap.
It's another homage to the way games used to be.
Very generous interpretation of Sony's pricing structure designed to maximize profits.
The end before things start to get dark. Thanks for hanging out with us and checking out Astrobot. The full review is linked down in the description. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer, no spaces.